All right, we are on our next lesson, which is simplifying algebraic expressions, 3-2. Let's go ahead and I'll use the page sorter and get up to the top here. All right, we are looking at learning goal 22. I'm able to simplify expressions containing like terms. So let's fill out 22 into our table of contents and put your date, and then we can scroll down to today's lesson. All right, goodbye page sorter, and here we go. All right, simplifying expressions. First thing to understand is simplifying an expression means that you're not actually solving or evaluating for a variable. You're not going to get to one number necessarily. You're just simplifying so that you have no like terms. And we've talked about that like terms are terms that have the same exact variables, or they don't have a variable because they're a constant. Okay, and so what we're going to do is walk through this expression right here and sort of decompose it a little bit. So the first thing we're going to look at is this first term here. So the expression is broken up into terms. The first term, let's go ahead and label that as first term. This first term has two factors. Okay? We have the negative 16, and we have it being multiplied by w, that variable w as a factor. Okay, the coefficient, remember, is the number that is in front of the variable. So in this one, our coefficient is the negative 16. Okay, all right, now separated by addition, we now have another term. So our next term, we'll go ahead and label this as second term. Okay, this term has two factors. So I see the coefficient of 1/4 multiplied by y and another y. Okay, so that's why it's different. It's not a like term to the 16w because it's a different variable, but it also, you notice, it has two variables attached to it because of the squared. The coefficient is the number in front of the variable, so our coefficient is 1/4. Okay, all right, and then the last one, before we even do this, remember these are separated by addition, so let's go ahead and do a quick KFC. So flip change. So technically, if I'm circling terms here, let me pick a different color. When I'm circling terms, I technically have a negative 3. Okay, so this is our third term. Okay, and our third term does not have two factors. This is what's called our constant. Okay, and our constant just means it has no variable attached to it. Okay, all right. And so just be aware, though, for this one, our term is the entire negative 3. Okay. All right, moving down, let's go ahead and get to our examples. We're going to walk through this. The very first thing that you want to do when you see this long string of many, many terms is KFC everything so that you do have addition separating each term. So I'm going to go through real quick. KFC, KFC, that one's already addition, KFC, KFC. Okay. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and I'm going to just rewrite my equivalent expression. Okay, so a little bit of a waste of time here because we already did it up above, but let's go ahead and do it anyway for the notes. Plus 2x squared. This is also risky because if you use this and make a mistake copying it, then you're really going to have a problem here. So I'm probably not going to use my rewritten one just because the top one's nice and organized. All right, so now let's go ahead and simplify the expression. To simplify it, we're trying to find all the like terms. So for this one only, I just do want to show you this way. Let's separate our workspace here and get the clubs going. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and highlight. I see this negative 3xy. So I want to go find all the other xy's. Okay, so I have that one, and it looks like that's it. So we have this xy club. okay? And that is my negative 3xy and also a negative 1xy. Okay, I know if it's just the negative, it has this invisible 1 with it. Okay, all right, so that's my x club. Let's go ahead and we'll pick a different highlighter and look at our next term. So I have a negative 6x, so I'm looking for all things with the single variable x. So the x squared is not that, but this is. So it looks like now we have an x club, okay, and that includes a negative 6x and a negative 8x. Okay, our last one, final color, I'll just pick this blue, and highlighter would be helpful. And we have a 2x squared, and then I'm looking for other x squareds, and I see this negative 7x squared. So we have the x squared club, and that is the 2x squared and a negative 7x squared. So what this does, this is what our brains would do if you're doing this more mentally than writing it all out like this, okay? And so what we want to do now is look at what's in the xy club and go ahead and combine those like terms. So when we look at these, we're seeing I have a negative xy, and I'm joining it or adding it with another negative 1xy. So we know that we have a negative 4xy, and we're separating by addition because we KFC'd everything. My next club is my x club. So if I look at these ones, I have a negative 6x and a negative 8x, same signs, add and keep. So we end up with 14x. So that's a negative 14x. And then we're going to add our last club, which is our squared club. When I look at this, I see I have a 2x squared plus a negative 7. So different signs subtract. I'm going to do the 7 minus the 2. So I end up with a negative 5x squared. So I've combined like terms. Typically, yes, we want to have KFC to solve things and do work. However, when we write our final answer, it's not as pretty because it has the two operations next to each other, which makes it look a little bit trickier. So this is the prettier version of what you would write. So go ahead and write this too. We would just change it, KFC it back, and end up with negative 4xy minus 14x minus 5x squared. So this one is just your prettier version, okay, that you can change it back to. Both are correct. One just is a little bit more typical to see. All right, let's go ahead and look at 2 and 3. We're not going to do the entire club things. I'm going to show you a couple other options here. So number 2, we'll go through. One of the first things that we can do is go ahead and KFC everything like we did before. Okay, that way everything is really clear as to what the actual terms are. And then instead of going through and highlighting, one of the things that you can do is this castle method. Okay, and that is just starting at the bottom here, you see the 5x, and then what you want to do is go up, over, down, and notice that I include the operations in front of those just so you can see what's going on. Okay, so you go down through all of these just to sort of separate the terms, and it allows you to visually see what's going on. So you may be able to do this and start to identify like terms, or you might do a hybrid where you, now that you've done that, you highlight. So I have the 5x. I'm looking for all things in that x club. So I have a negative 6x and a negative 8x. Okay, and now I can go ahead and change colors. I see a negative 3xy. There's another negative xy, and then that's it. And then my last one, I'll pick green. We have 1 positive 2x squared. Okay, so this is something you can do, and then you can visually sort of look at what's going on. So I see my 5x plus a negative 6x and this negative 8x. And so I can start to combine those one at a time. The 5x plus a negative 6x puts us at a negative 1x so far for those two. And then plus another negative 8x, we end up at negative 9x for those. Okay, so for my x club, I end up with a negative 9x there. Now I can look at my xy club. So I see we have 3xy, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to a negative 1xy. So I'm just visually looking at it right. So negative 3 plus a negative 1 is a negative 4xy. And then we have our 2x squared, and so we'll just go ahead and add the 2x squared. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. If it helps you to write out your clubs, you can do that before doing this, whatever you need to do to get it right. Okay, and I can leave it like that and be done. So let's look at your next one. Same thing, we can go through. I want to show you without doing KFC as well. Okay, so I can just go through, separate all the terms, make sure you just include the operation in front of the coefficient. Okay, now we can visually see each number, and we can just know that those are added in between, okay, because of KFC. So I can go through and highlight. So here's my constant. So I'm looking and seeing if there's any other constants. And I see a negative 11. So look how, because I didn't do KFC, okay, I'm including that subtraction symbol because basically it's saying negative 10 because I've separated them like that. Okay, and I have a positive 1. Okay, so there's all my constants. If you want, you could even pause and just take care of those before you start doing the other things. So why don't we give that a try? So I have a negative 9 and a negative 10. That's negative 19. Okay, and then I have a positive 1. Puts me at a negative 18 for the constant. Okay, let me pick another highlighter color. We have a positive 5x, so I'm just looking for all the x clubs. And then I have a negative 6x. I have a negative 1x. No other x's. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and combine those like terms because they have the same variable. And so we'll add up all the coefficients. So I have a positive 5 and a negative 6. So I'm making just a little note. So far I'm at a negative 1x. And then I'm going to combine it with the other negative 1x. And I get a negative 2x. Okay. So you can see I can go ahead and, if I just write that, okay, it automatically puts that operation in there. Okay. All right. And then my last one, I'll go with blue. It looks like we have a y club. So I'm looking at my other y, which is a positive 3y. I'm going to go ahead and combine the like terms, a negative 3y and a positive 3y. We end up with adding a 0y, which we know that anything times 0 is 0, so that doesn't really exist. I can go ahead and just get rid of that. And we end up with negative 18 minus 2x. And there we go. Okay. Or you might have, if you KFC'd it, it might look like that. But this is the prettier. A lot of times you see the variable first. And so you might have a negative 2x minus the 18 as well. Okay, both of those are accurate when combining like terms. All right, that's it for that lesson. Nice job.